Welcome back to Outdoor Reading Class. This is Mr. James back for Lesson 2 and Day 2 of Week 4. Can't believe it's Week 4 already. We're going to continue reading from the text that we began in your previous lesson. Our enduring understanding is that learners understand that explorers have had both positive and negative effects on society. Should know that back from the previous module. And we are still looking at exploring new worlds. Our essential question is, how do readers quote accurately from a text when comparing and contrasting themes and topics? So we're going to make sure that we are finding those accurate quotes that support our opinion or support the answer that we're given, so that we can not just be saying an answer, but have supporting evidence from a text. And our objective today, let me move my big head. Our objective today is I can identify the motives, which are reasons of characters. So motives are motivations, why characters choose to do certain things, the reasons they have for doing the things that they do. So we're going to be looking at why characters are doing certain things within a text as we read pages 12 through 21 today. So please have your book available, and we are going to begin reading on page 12.
"But what do you know of cooking?" the cook of the trades increase asked, as he eyed the boy the bosun had sent his way. Standing there on the dock, the cook thought that the boy couldn't have been more than 13, and thin as well.
I'm going to stop right here for a second. As you probably noticed here, we're in a totally different scene than where we left off. These 3 stars, even though we didn't change a chapter, these are showing a change in scene. So you should have an idea now that we're in a different scene as we're on the Trades Increase, it appears, which, remember, is the name of the ship.
"I have helped the cook in the kitchen at home. I mean in my master's kitchen," Sarah corrected herself. "Pheasant, pies, roasts, and the like." The cook chuckled. "Very grand, I warrant, but there's not much call for that on a voyage across the oceans." "I need the work, sir," said Sarah, continuing. "I will prove myself, you'll see." The cook shook his head. "You may soon wish you weren't on board. Sailing to India is no fairy tale." He paused and thought for a moment.
Looks like Sarah decided to join them on the ship, and that they're pretty sure that she's a boy. We'll see what happens.
A ginger cat swaggered towards Sarah through the boxes and sacks on the wharf and rubbed against her legs. She bent down to scratch him behind the ears, and then looked up at the cook for his verdict. "Sir?" "Very well, then," the cook relented. "But only because we're sailing with the tide, and because Tom here has taken a fancy to you," said the cook, nodding toward the cat. "Thank you, sir," Sarah beamed. "Now come hither. What did you say your name was?" Sam, Sarah thought quickly. "Well, Sam, let's give word to the mate. But you'd better not play the fool. Captain Booth's not one for fools." The cook gestured to the quarterdeck.
And hear some of the different language they use. Play the fool means just sort of be someone who's messing around.
Sarah caught sight of the captain surveying the ship. A blue doublet done up against the wind, a sword by his side, his arms folded behind his back. She tried hard not to smile, but sure enough, it was her father conducting his final checks before they sailed for India.
Scene change.
Sarah was happy to know that the same waves that passed below her feet also passed beneath her father's feet, that they felt the same wind, that they faced the same peril. But life for the cook's boy was very different from that of the captain. Their paths rarely crossed, and when they did, Sarah kept her head down. She could not reveal herself on board the ship and weaken her father's authority. Below decks it was damp and sticky, the stale air heavy with the breath of many men. Sarah shared their stench, their coughs, and their cries in the night. Her clothes became thick with dirt and grease. At least it wasn't hard for her to stay in disguise. None of the seamen washed. In their tiny galley, Sarah and Cook did what they could to provide good sustenance to the men. Their rations consisted of salted beef and hardtack, the ship's biscuit, as hard as stone, and dripping and cheese while supplies lasted. Month after month passed. Months of creaking wood, of rolling storms, of leaking planks, and a sickly feeling in the pit of the stomach. When the winds deserted them off the coast of Africa, they drifted aimlessly in the doldrums, the air becoming so thick they feared they would choke. Then they dropped anchor and took shelter for more months as wicked gales took it in turn to lash the convoy. The trade's increase was forced to drop anchor several more times to stock up on water and provisions, and once for weeks on end to allow the carpenter to rebuild the rudder. At least this means we have fresh food for a change, said Captain Booth, eyeing the table one night as they lay off the coast of Madagascar. Lieutenant Armitage of the Adventurer, their sister ship, dined with the captain as Sarah stood at the door with a bowl in her hands, her eyes firmly fixed on the floorboards. That it does, Captain, agreed Armitage. Curse that infernal rudder all the same. Nearly a year has passed since we set sail, and our business has not yet even begun. The treaty and the land will be ours, sir, Armitage assured the captain. All in good time. Let us hope so, sighed Captain Booth. Will that be all, Captain? Sarah squeaked, barely raising her eyes. Captain Booth paused for a moment. Have we sailed together before, boy? He asked, looking Sarah up and down. No, Captain, Sarah replied, keeping her voice as steady as she could. She dared not look her father in the eye. This is my first time at sea, she whispered, her heart pounding. Then thank Cook for his troubles, boy, said Captain Booth, dismissing her. Sarah closed the cabin door behind her, leaving the captain and Armitage to their meal, and scuttled quickly back to the galley. What is this treaty the captain seeks? Sarah asked back at the galley, telling Cook what she'd heard. The company has an eye to gaining land and setting up a factory, a proper trading post, said Cook, sitting with Tom on his lap as he watched Sarah clean the dishes. The captain is seeking a treaty from the Mughal emperor himself, a piece of paper that says we can take from India what we please. Cook laughed. He'll make this company a fortune, you mark my words. Sarah thought for a moment and asked, Do you think him a good man, Cook? He can be a funny old cove, I'll warrant you that, said Cook. But he's a rare and goodly captain, and I've sailed with a few. Sarah turned her face for a moment, in case Cook saw her flush with pride. She found a piece of chewed beef on one of the plates and leaned over to feed it to Tom. Well, I for one will be glad to get to India and get off this ship, she said. I proffered you'd feel that way, said Cook with a smile. Now, be quick with those dishes, bilge rat. With favorable winds at its back, the trade's increase crossed the Indian Ocean without further delay, and the crew arrived in India on September 14th, a full year and 3 months since they had left the docks at Gravesend. On the voyage, Sarah had watched from a distance how her father's hair had turned gray at the sides, and how his face had become creased and aged. She understood now why he had tried to protect her from the journey. Men had dropped like flies aboard the trade's increase, departing this life with scurvy or the flux, and the same was true of the adventurer. Her father felt the burden. As the shadow of India crept toward them over the horizon, Sarah could see the weight of these worries begin to lift from his shoulders. He was looking forward to the business and the days ahead, and with a flutter in her chest, Sarah realized that she was too.
Seems like a long time to be on a ship, but we'll have to see what happens once they get off that ship. And I thank you for joining me, and I look forward to talking to you again soon. Have a great rest of your day.